Recording is on.
Welcome to the Bitcoin Core App Design Jam session number 3. Third time we're meeting here for this very loose kind of open design collaboration session. Right now it's Mo and I. We'll have maybe Gerald joining, and I think Jakob might join in half an hour or so, but we'll just start. We'll just get going anyways, just to kick things off, because there's some preparation work anyways. And I think part of that is just figuring out what we want to do during this session. So we had our general project call yesterday, and we discussed a bunch of different open design things that need to be figured out. And these are the two that Gerald said that we should, or important. And one of them is the proxy screen design and disabled settings. The second one is the init error message. So I think at least discussing those two things would be good to do. Yeah, what else, Mo?
I have in my notes over here, I have the same as you. So I have connection settings screen, but is that the same as the proxy screen then?
No, connection settings was different. So that's the PR158, which turned the fake options, the kind of these mock-up options that were in the connection settings and other setting screens, into actual real ones that actually affect the application, right? It hooks them up to the application. But then like the places where some of these options exist in the UI is a bit debatable.
So that's a separate PR. That's a separate PR then. So it's proxy screen, disable settings, connection settings screen, init error message.
Yes. Connection settings location. For that one, we might need a little bit more technical expertise on the call.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, we're UPMP, I probably just made that up, settings go or whatever. There's some stuff that we need to figure out, especially if they're, so the 3 levels that we have so far is general settings everyone understands, like, yes, fill up my hard drive, or no, use less space, or download stuff on Wi-Fi, or also use my cell connection. Anyone can understand it. Then we have the slight customization options that are a little bit more hobbyist, or somebody who's a little bit more experienced. And then we have developer options, which is a totally different use case. It's like, I want to run it in testnet with 50 Bitcoin and 17 transactions, and one transaction should be taproot in a multi-sig, whatever. You know, it's just like a very different need. They don't want to actually use it. They want to work the machinery with very unique setups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where the settings go within that those 3 categories, I think that's the question here.
Yeah.
And that also depends how they're presented.
So these are very kind of focused screen states. Well, not really, but they're. Yeah.
So I would start with the proxy stuff, and let me see. I'm gonna hop over here to the repository and try to pull that up. I need better bookmarks here for all of these different places. Okay, no, I think Gerald posted this in the Bitcoin Core app. Okay, I'm just gonna copy that. Copy image. So that was this. So basically, what does that look like? And then Bosch posted a reference from Blockstream Green.
Okay.
And so I think that reference is pretty close. You know, you have your basic like on mobile, you have these basic toggles, which we're also using in the core wallet. We're like using these list items.
Yep.
And then input fields have a slightly different treatment. And then used for reaching peers via. Are those checkboxes?
Sorry, which one? Used for reaching peers via they are checkboxes.
Yeah, I was just wondering because checkboxes you can select 1, 2, or all 3, and with combo boxes you have to choose one. But I think these are non-exclusive to each other.
So you can choose both, 2 of 3.
Yeah, I think. I'm not sure. We'd have to maybe. Let me just open up start Qt here and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And something I'm curious here is in the second checkbox text here. Why is the number 5 underscored here? Socks 5 proxy.
Excellent question. I'm gonna. Yeah, that seems normally if something's underscored, it means you can click on it. I'm gonna try to hop into the Figma file as well.
Okay, that does not seem to be the case in my. There's no underscore or underline here. Connecting through proxy, and I cannot still even when I enable. No matter what I enable, these IPv4, IPv6 Tor options are not enabled.
No.
Although I might have to restart, but I can't because I don't have a proxy running. So I think. Okay, so we're just gonna. I think we should just create an initial first design version and just run with it. So let's take a look. Here's kind of a typical connection settings screen. I'm gonna move this. Let's just work in that corner here for now. These 2 things. So there's our connection settings. Let's see. So we basically want connect through socks 5 proxy, proxy. Then proxy P port used for reaching peers via the title here. Okay. 4, 6. I'm just filling in.
Yep.
Just duplicating it so we have something to.
And this would
mold.
be proxy settings here, right? I can change that.
Yeah.
It seems quite text heavy, these current headings that they have. But
yeah, it might be necessary. Let's see.
Proxy IP. And then the last one is port.
And on the right-hand side, we want text. It's 9050. Yes. What?
So, Christoph.
Yep.
when I look at this original design at the top here, is there, I'm going to draw a line here because this is how I'm seeming to understand it. Is that the separation then? Is this meaning that when you click this, you're only able to enter in this information? And then when you click this, you're only able to enter in this information?
Oh, but it's, yeah, see, that's the thing. So right now we just kind of copy pasted it over.
Yeah.
Just a sec. So that's the question where we can ideally figure out, actually try it out, and then
see if that's actually the case, because it's,
and just see how it behaves. Okay, I already closed my Qt here. I need to open it up again. Okay, so I mean, my understanding would be that the second option. So basically, I'm setting up a proxy here, which is like another middleman here to route traffic through. And I can say, okay, use this for IPv4 and IPv6 peers. And I don't know how that works if the other peer decides, or if I decide that, or if it's a mutual thing, like, hey, peer, how do you want to communicate? Okay, let's use IPv4. Cool, we're both happy. And then I can enable Tor. That this bottom thing, the second one says use separate proxy to reach peers via Tor. So is that only available if I enable Tor?
On the top one.
On the top one.
Yeah.
Right. So if I don't enable Tor, then, you know, what's the point of separate proxy?
Would the user then, like, this is the technical one, so would they click check connect proxy through SOC 5S proxy default, then they would click Tor, and then they're able to enter in the bottom one?
Okay. I mean, right now I'm clicking out in the UI. I can toggle both of those separately.
You can, okay. And at the same time as well?
Sorry?
And simultaneously as well?
Yep.
Oh.
So we need to, I mean, I don't think you and I can come up with this.
We cannot
sort this out, but we can come up with questions and the recommendations. So
I can add some questions in here.
Yeah.
Questions, yeah.
Yeah. Should the second option only be enabled if Tor is selected in the first one? Are the checkboxes in the first one distinct or somehow
connected or reliant on?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Disables the other, yep.
Just goofy example here. Okay, so
I'll just enable this called proxy settings. Okay.
I'm hopping in the UI kit here real quick in the settings. So a pattern that's not uncommon is here to categorize settings a little bit. So for example, we'll just copy the title here. It might be so we might say we might say, okay, we have two groups of settings.
Mm-hmm.
One is a, this is goofy. Let's do this here. Container 0, 10, 5. That's 20.
We could remove this checkbox here because the options are only, if I understand correctly, IP4, IP6, and then Tor. If I understand correctly.
So, so I might be getting this wrong, but I think there's what I think it's called ClearNet.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Clear. Okay.
Clear, like Tor is basically through this onion routing stuff, which is more privacy. And I think if you're not using Tor, right, there has to be a word for when you don't use Tor. And I think it's called clear. That might be something else, like non-Tor, right?
Okay.
So it could be, there could be, basically I'm just saying we might be able to split this into two categories.
Mm-hmm. That's my idea. That's a feeling I have if that's the case. Yeah. I removed this checkbox here because it seems to me that the only options are IP4, IP6, and Tor.
Yeah, so this one technically also goes
Yeah, there we go.
here.
So the first one is connect through SOX proxy, and the second one is Tor proxy. Yep, nice.
Here.
That's very distinguishable. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's how it works, that could be an option. Then container. Then a second possibility would be to, let's say, toggle is and toggle is disabled. Well, that addresses a different thing. So toggle is disabled, options are not visible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then all of this stuff here would be gone. Okay, so this could be the default screen. Yep. Okay, looks very straightforward. I guess, and then we have the text default proxy. So this could, maybe this is actually, maybe it should be like this.
Yeah, yeah, that's more that's nicer. Yes. That is nicer.
And both of them are called, is it sock or socks? There's an S missing here. So we could even.
So only when they toggle on do they
like
see
both of them. Sorry?
Only when they
yeah, that's an option. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, I just removed. Okay, hold on. We can track all of these steps here. So this was one option. Okay, and let's document our steps here. Okay. So what did we do here? Copy. Let's see. Recreating options from the screenshot. That's what we did here. Then here, splitting options in two categories.
Oh, I'm writing the same thing that you're writing.
Yeah, and for this one, the one that you did, the one that you're writing on is hiding options when disabled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, and the next thing was seeing if we can clarify the language. So default, like both of them say they're SOX 5 proxies. Why?
You know, there is the one about peers. Why do they speak about peers? Could we call the second one a peers proxy? I don't know. There's something.
But the first one, the first one is also the first one is also used for reaching
It's
peers.
also peers.
Is
Yeah.
your question whether there are two different types of connections, like one for peers and one for, let's just call it other stuff?
Let me Google what Tor onion services are. Tor onion services.
And then I think something else that could be done here is
An onion service.
Bitcoin Core uses a SOX 5 proxy to connect to peers and other stuff.
This might be interesting for you, for us. So, onion services are anonymous network services that are exposed over the Tor network. In contrast to conventional internet services, onion services are private, generally not indexed by search engines.
Yep.
So that is a private connection.
Correct.
Right. So if we wanted to even oversimplify the language, we could say, yeah.
So
Private connection for the second one? I don't know. Because it seems like maybe the second option is more private and the first is less.
I'm wondering if you need all of this stuff here. Five proxy to connect to.
That's nicer. I like that.
Actually, I think it needs to go at the top. So at the top, it needs to maybe. So
This would have been helpful if Gerald would have been on the call.
And I guess you could just say enable proxy. This provides additional privacy benefits. And then it's good to know you need to set up and run the proxy yourself, right? If I don't know if the app does this for me or if it's big, if it's like I have to install something else.
Yeah.
It's good if the user is explained. And then if we have a primary proxy, and it could be just, yeah, I want to do that. Like it doesn't need to say connect through SOX 5 proxy, default proxy. It's like, okay, there's a proxy. Yeah, turn it on.
Yeah, that's the one we're using. And if you want to use that one, turn it on. Yeah.
And then here, and then the question is, okay, trying to clarify language with minimal knowledge of how it actually works. I gotta love design process. And I guess the question then is, if you like, should the secondary stuff be visible here? Like, should that be visible? Like, if you don't want to proxy anything, then yeah, should it be visible at all? So it could be.
Let me have a Google.
We don't know. It could be the page could start like that.
Look.
Includes. I guess this could be. a proxy appears and other stuff for improved privacy.
I'm just having a look for any other proxy setting screens just for some ideas.
This one says that includes. Yeah, and then, okay, cool. I don't have it enabled, but let's just say I enable it. Turn my toggle on here. Then I guess all of this stuff here. It's just.
I'm not really finding much in terms of inspiration. Okay. Oh, I closed my mistake. What do they mean by disabled settings? Proxy.
It's like when like a button that you're not allowed to press right now because I don't know, you haven't done anything. Like the form is not filled out completely or something. So
Right.
it's just gray. It's just gray instead of its normal style. Okay, so I'm looking at. Is this valid? Looks when it's enabled. Okay, so let's say I'm just enabling it, and then all of this stuff pops up, but we haven't looked at anything yet. So, okay, I'm enabling in proxy. I can change the IP and I can change the port. Okay, very simple. Then I can choose for reaching peers. Reaching peers sounds like it's an outgoing thing.
It does. Yeah. How does the user know here with this proxy IP 127.0.01 that they can actually type in here? Well, how could we explore maybe how that looks like it's an entry field?
Yeah, so on mobile, this is super common. Nobody even thinks about it twice.
Okay.
A common thing is.
I'll send Jacob the link. He's just asking for a link. Let me go.
The link is in the header of the bookmark, the Slack channel. So one common thing is you have an icon here that indicates to the right, that indicates that you can edit it. But yeah, something we have to look into.
Like a pen, yeah, like pen.
Okay, and this is kind of a mess right now. So we need to figure out, this text is not clear.
No, it's not. It feels as if there's like the distinctions need to be made more, but we're unable to make those distinctions because it's just the technical.
Recording is on.
Hey.
Hey.
Sorry for changing the hour at the last moment.
Well, good. Glad you could make it so shortly before vacation. So to catch you up real quick, we briefly talked about what we want to talk in this call, which was basically the stuff that Gerald said yesterday that he'd like us to prioritize, which was proxy screen and disabled settings. Then the window init error, so the application can't even start because something went wrong, what that mode looks like, and then the connection settings. And so then we started hopping in, looking at the, so this is the current design in the Bitcoin Core Qt GUI for the proxy settings. And then this here was the screenshot from Blockstream Green that Bosch posted. And then we just took a few steps. So first step was take our current design and then just kind of recreate these settings here. in that style that we have, right? Not touching anything. The next one was thinking about, okay, there are like two groups, right? There's one regular proxy thing, and then there's this one for Tor onion services. Okay, maybe we need to have like a ClearNet proxy and a Tor proxy. So we just organize things a little bit differently. And then we thought, well, maybe all of these sub options should not be visible if these are disabled. So that's what that looks like. And we also thought like, okay, here in this text, it says default proxy. So maybe that should just be the category title. Like you have a default proxy, and then you have your Tor proxy. Next step was actually explaining what this does here a little bit. So Bitcoin Core uses a SOCKS 5 proxy to do this and that. Because, in this copy here, both of these say SOCKS 5. Like they're both the same. So it can be just at the top explain. And it also wasn't clear if this is something that you have to set up yourself or if the application provides this. So just writing some, like without really understanding how it works, making a bunch of assumptions and just writing some copy in here. And then we thought, well, if you said you don't want to use a proxy, maybe this Tor proxy thing should not be an option either. Like you say, okay, yes, I want to use a proxy. And then you can say, yes, I want to use a second proxy also. So if you haven't said that you want to proxy anything, then maybe the second one should not be visible. And the next thing we're trying to do is put then let's say what happens if a user toggles this on, do all the options come flooding back in, and then what do they look like? So that's what we're trying to, so we're just trying to like one step at a time kind of logically step through this right now. And this is where we are at the moment. So yeah, one of my critiques here, what I was just looking at right now was the word used for reaching peers via. I don't understand what that really means. Like reaching peers sounds like an outgoing thing, but we know that there are outgoing and incoming peers. And then like, how do I decide what to do? And also are these mutually exclusive? Can I pick one or two or three or all, or if I choose one? And then there's also Tor here.
Yeah,
Sorry?
if it's checkbox, then I guess it's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, that's the assumption. In my Qt GUI, it doesn't work. I assume I have to restart the application, but I don't have a proxy set up. So my assumption is you have to set up the proxy yourself because you need to put in the IP. I would assume if the application provides a proxy somehow, you would not have to put in an IP, but that might not be the case either. So and then I was wondering, yeah, but that's kind of where we are right now. Just trying to step through this stuff,
So when I saw the original design, I thought that if it's the disabled IP is like a default. That doesn't work that way, right? I mean,
that is a good point. Is that a placeholder or is that a default?
Yeah.
Meaning, meaning if I connect through SOCKS S5, it will use 127.0.0.1. That's what you're saying. This is the default. That's how it works out of the box. And I have the option to change it. So and I think if we look at that one, to visualize that, the question would be then, like, should I have the option to make that more obvious? Just gonna, I'm running out of room. Just gonna make a copy over here.
No, I'm just going to delete this. These are not working for me. It does not work well in the frames.
So we could have a second option that says, do you want to use a custom proxy? And only then you get the input of the IP and the port.
Christoph, I pulled in some screen states here. I think this was a little bit interesting how they have these like a showing them with the word active, actually active. It's a bit clear for the user like this. It's just like, like active, that kind of highlighting at the top, I think is a bit interesting. I was just looking at ideas. It's because the screen is so heavy with information. And here there's almost like two separations here with, or you're using that one or you're using that one.
That is a good point, because, and let me pull up a screenshot from Qt here.
Yeah.
Qt says client restart required to activate changes. So we do need to indicate to users whether this is actually on or not.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I enable proxy, then we need text. We need something on this screen.
We need them to know it's active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's design problems to solve. Disabled form states, form field states, whatever. Then language around default and Tor or secondary proxy. Then we have the is 127 0.0.1 a placeholder or the default setting that users can change.
Yeah.
And how do we represent? How do we make this obvious? Does the application include proxy functionality?
And maybe they just want the users to use the default setting. So then they would only be default, and then, do you want to customize this? And then, do you want to use our recommended option, I guess, which would be the first option, default, or do you want to customize? So that could even be another screen exploration with just, do you want to use what we have, or do you want to use the?
Yeah, that would be this one. Like first is enable proxy. Do you want to use it all?
Yeah.
Do you want to customize those settings?
Yeah.
Which could be we could only group the IP and the port underneath that, or we could group everything underneath that, like the IPv4, IPv6, and Tor.
Right.
Options.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I have no answers to a lot of these things. So next version over here could be that all of the stuff is gone too. Like unless you choose customize, you don't see the customization settings.
No. Yep.
An alternative to that would be this is kind of stupid. I have a subpage called proxy settings, but we're already on a screen called proxy settings. That doesn't make sense. Okay, Jakob, what do you think?
I'm thinking about the toggles. Like how they change from checkboxes to toggles. I mean, there's a very slight. I mean, toggles seems to be confusing sometimes, and I wonder. And also here, they look like, it's kind of lost the character that you enable proxy and then you have toggles with the same, the same weight. And I wonder if to clear that up, because even though I think this screen with the settings looks actually more complicated than the original one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is a placeholder here too that we need to work through. Like we need to systematically work through simplifying this, and at the end, at some point, a simple version will. Oh, we have layout logic here now too.
Yeah, I've just brought that in. Oh, that's not clickable. I like how, this you've got recommended here to show that that's something that could be interesting to use for active, like showing them that it's active or enabled, just like a little, using the same design concept here. I don't know where that, yeah.
Okay, I guess the design problem is how do we indicate active, inactive state?
Yep.
Well, I'm kind of lost. Isn't the toggle about this?
So yes and no, because it's not active until you restart the application.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's something we have to figure out. I think that's the main point.
Yeah, the active and the inactive. Yeah.
How about just a notification that you need to restart an application to this actually be active? Because I don't know if we introduce active, like, do you know if we'll need that active label in another settings or in another? Do we actually know right now that we will need it later? Because if not, then I don't know if it's worth it to introduce a new.
I mean, I wouldn't worry about the design system so much right now. I think we're just trying to work through this information and the best way to structure it and make it usable. So
this idea is nice as well. I like that you put the proxy IP next to the port. It minimizes the uses up less space on the screen. I like that. Only question is, how would they know that the first bit is? Oh, I see. Right.
So that would be an option.
Check it on. They're going to check it on, and then they're going to have all of those options at the bottom. Entry fields. Yep. Yeah.
Right. So now when it's turned off, they use custom settings, and when
it's not clear yet. It's not totally resolved yet.
This could be even further simplified, because what Christoph has is then, oh, geez, 1 second. You could then possibly, with what Christoph's doing, remove this then too, and only be left with that. And then maybe this could be called default proxy. And this one could be called custom proxy.
But how would you enable this secondary proxy then? It's now, those options are gone now.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
So there's a default proxy that you can turn on and off.
Yeah.
And then if you choose to enable that default proxy, you can also turn on a secondary proxy for Tor connections.
Right. So they need to be interconnected.
Yeah. So my understanding is that, okay, so I'm guessing here now. As we talk through this, it's coming together a little bit. So here's my understanding, and it might be totally wrong. So, okay, I have a default proxy. I can say yes, no, I want it or not. And it has default setting. I can use those or I can customize them. And I can say, well, use this proxy for IPv4, IPv6, and Tor stuff. If I choose Tor, then I also have, I don't know.
Access
so I can say, should the default proxy, should Tor stuff run through the default proxy or not? But I can also say, I want the default proxy for IPv4 and IPv6, but for Tor stuff, I want to use a separate proxy.
So this one, the Tor in the default is exclusive with a separate Tor, right? I mean,
it may be, we don't know.
We don't know.
Because yeah, how can you use a separate, how can you use a default proxy and a separate, which uses Tor and a separate proxy for Tor services? At the same time, it seems exclusive.
Okay, so
Let's just have a Google here.
one thing we also don't know yet is how people actually use this. Maybe these things can be grouped differently if we understand how people actually do this thing. I'm going to mock up something real quick. I just need to see it in front of me to.
And it is possible to use two proxies at the same time. So.
Guess we haven't told anyone that we're on the call. We're on the call working. Wait. Enable proxy, and then maybe use separate proxy for Tor. Okay. Another version of this would look like this, where
there are no checkboxes in besides these ones that we have, huh? No.
Okay. Sorry, in our what did you?
We don't have, besides these toggle on, toggle off, there are no checkboxes in the design system.
No, we do have them, and let me see. It looks. Yeah, but these are checkboxes.
These are the ones, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's just for mobile. Things kind of moved over to these.
Okay.
I mean, with the first iPhone, I think that was introduced. It's become a bit of a pattern. But what was I about to do? Okay. Okay, so here's one idea to separate So this would be separate. I can enable the proxy, and I can turn on what connections to use it for. And then I have a separate sections for the settings. It could be Tor, proxy, P.
Where are, I'm just trying to find where this is.
And this could be
Oh, there he is.
proxy IP, and this could be. So this would say there would be two categories. One, like, okay, I want to enable it, and these are the types of connections I want to use it for. And then I have connection settings, which is probably not the right term, but I'm grouping the IP and ports together.
These could be IP settings, no? IP port settings.
Yeah. I guess in here you do not have a choice whether you use a custom, you can enable Tor or disable it, but you cannot choose whether you want to use this custom Tor proxy. So we probably need one of these here. Use custom Tor proxy. And I guess the question is then, if I enable a proxy, but I disable it for IPv4 connections, I assume the application will still make IPv4 connections. It will just not route them through a proxy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why you would want to choose that. I would assume you would, but there might be very good reasons for this. I don't know.
Let me just add in something else.
How are you two working on some other mockups that you want to talk through?
No, I'm just looking at design
Okay.
ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I just found this one as well, which is also interesting. Like, it's along with the ideas that we've been doing, is that only when you toggle on can you actually see the options to enter address and port.
Yeah.
And then those are next to each other, so they're, it's a horizontal as opposed to a vertical layout. I don't know.
Yeah, that's we just don't have that in our design system. That's a very typical.
That's a typical
type of thing. Yeah, I mean our design system was basically, it started as mobile because initially the idea was like this brings like nodes to mobile, and it was a mobile first design.
Yeah.
But now we're a little bit in a different position where the application will only launch or it's only available right now on desktop, but we want mobile. So we're relying more on mobile UX
mobile
patterns.
kind of design patterns. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they need to be separate input fields anyways.
Yeah.
Seems like it could easily just be one.
I'm just having a look for ideas. Could even so it's possible to have two proxy settings at the same time.
Sorry?
Is it? Do we know if it's possible to have two proxies within Bitcoin Core?
Yeah, I mean that's what this is, right? You have the default one, and then you have the additional Tor one.
And they can have both activated at the same time.
Yes, and from the language, if you look at the language here, it says use separate proxy for Tor. That hints to me that you have to enable the first one be able to use the second one?
Use separate SOCKS 5 proxy to reach peers via Tor. So
Yeah.
via Tor, through Tor, use separate to reach via Tor onion services. So
that should be disabled if using proxy would be inactive at all, right?
Yeah, that's where we need Hebasto or someone to. Okay, I'm just going to click around. I'm in Qt here right now. I'm just going to only enable the second checkbox, not the first one, and then I will restart it and see what happens. Quitting. Okay, it's shutting down. Test this application, feel out how it works. Okay, let's quit, restarting it. Yeah, so clearly we need some input from
we do.
people at this point. We can keep pushing on it and coming up with some different variations. I think a good outcome of our session here would be if we have 3 different versions or whatever amount that we can then use for conversations with the crew, and then they can tell us, this is how it works, right? This is the logic.
I like this screen here that you came up with, where there's a separate, so it's enable proxy, use IP4, use IP6, use Tor. I like that separation of these two. I think that one's, I like that one. It's because it's they're separated very much, the categories of things. We just don't know if that separation is actually possible, but I like that one.
Okay, take a look at that one. I just enabled the second checkbox and restarted Qt, and you can tell that this little Tor checkbox is enabled.
Automatically, there we go. That's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
But the problem, like it seems like the main proxy is not enabled, but that seems illogical. Like that does not make sense, right? It's like, hold on, I didn't enable any proxies, but why is this checkbox here enabled then?
Mm-hmm.
So it does seem like I can use one or the other.
That's it, which then helps us with our design decisions, which means we could have 2 separate, clearly separate boxes, areas.
Yeah, and it seems like I need to choose. If I enable both, I need to choose. For Tor, should Tor be using the first one or the second one?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, it seems like our first enable proxy, enable Tor proxy. All right, and if I have everything disabled, it would look like this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so I get here. Okay, so I have a default proxy and I have a Tor proxy, and I can independently turn them on and off.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I turn on the default proxy only, let's say the state is like this.
Oh, I think that there has to be this separate word somewhere there.
I'm sorry?
I guess there has to be this this wording, use separate proxy to reach Tor, or not. Because when it turn, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you turn proxy, it also turn when you turn proxy checkbox, it also turned the checkbox in the default proxy with Tor services. No.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. So the
because in a default proxy, you also can use Tor proxy. And then the second settings is just for separate. Just if you want to use proxy, but separate than the default proxy. That's how I understand it. So I think the first settings would be just to enable proxy, and then anything else would be inside, like under. When you enable proxy, then inside that you can choose if you want to use a separate proxy for Tor or use just the default proxy for Tor as for any other.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Recording is on.
pro like you. How do you remove these? I'm just here at the end. How do you remove this, the frame? Because I want to explore what it would be like to have this here.
Which frame?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'd like to explore what it would look like to have these little toggle boxes here. Oh, geez.
Yeah, you're in an auto layout. You would have to, if you want to customize this stuff,
Yeah.
you have to take it out of the auto layout. And that is possible if you select the option. I'm just going to make a simple thing here at the top. So I have these are using auto layout, and I want to take this one here outside of the auto layout.
Yes.
There's a thing at the top right that says absolute position. And now it's still in the same container, but it does not affect the auto layout. Right? The container does not try to like linearly lay this out with all the other elements in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, like I said, you select the element you want, and then in the top right, there's a option called absolute position. It's right next to the Y coordinate in the sidebar.
So
this little so there's a little plus surrounded by these I don't know what do you call that. Okay.
Could you show me on your screen? I will zoom into your screen to have a look.
This one.
Yeah, it's a new feature by Figma, and it's very useful, especially like models with X button, which is not aligned with the auto layout.
I see it. Hovered over it. Absolute position. So you just toggle it on, you toggle it off. Right.
Everything is based on auto layout. So if we change the text or stuff, everything just kind of adjusts. We don't have to manually position things.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want, like, for whatever reason, long term or just for messing around, you just kind of want to take some elements and say, okay, just like, you live outside of this layout logic. Okay, Jakob, you're talking about something. So you are working on these screens here. So it says, okay, single option.
I mean, this is how I understand it, yeah. So you just need to, or I know, maybe just enable proxy. Better.
That's not quite right yet.
No?
Okay, yeah, okay, enable default proxy. But there are two proxies I can independently turn on and off. The default one and the separate one, the top Tor one.
So why when you turned the Tor proxy, why it also checked the Tor checkbox in the default settings?
So my guess is that this is my guess here, that these checkboxes are kind of global, like visually here, it's underneath the default proxy. But my guess is that these are actually global settings. Like, should this application use a proxy for Tor connections? In this case, this is actually true, right? So the checkbox should be enabled.
But what's, like, imagine we use only the separate Tor proxy. What is the difference between that and using default proxy but checking only Tor services? what is the difference?
Well, in this case, the default proxy is not on.
Yeah, but no, forget about this case. We have, let's imagine we enable, the second proxy, the use separate source proxy.
The Tor proxy.
And
Yes.
this is one case, and the other case is we click only, default, but we check mark only use for which appears via Tor. What is the difference? We don't check IPv4, IPv6.
Correct, but there are multiple options here. It could be that a user wants to use the default one and the Tor one for different things. They might want to use the default one for IPv4 and then the separate one for Tor.
Yeah, but then they could check two, right? But I mean, I think in my design you can do both, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you enable proxy, then you have settings of the proxy. You can choose if you want to enable Tor. And then if you want to choose a different proxy for Tor, then you have settings for that.
That's a little bit indirect
Because look, if you want to use just Tor proxy, then you can
yeah, but that's really indirect. It's just like, yes, okay, I want to use the default proxy, and I want to use a proxy for Tor connections, but I do not want to use the default proxy. I want to use a separate proxy. So it's like you're saying yes default proxy, and then later on you're saying no default proxy to Tor.
I think the default, perhaps default is bad wording here. I would just use proxy. Because why do we need to use default here? If the user thinks I want to use proxy, enable proxy, and then let's say they only want to use proxy for Tor. So then they enable proxy and then they only check mark Tor connections. If they want to use it for Tor and for IP connections separately, then they set a proxy and then they have a separate settings to enable a separate proxy for Tor services. But I have never used proxies. So.
Okay, so a question here in this screen is, so the proxy is like basically it's like a process that has to run in the background.
Mm-hmm.
When the application starts, the default proxy is enabled. So presumably you'd think that this process runs in the background. Well, actually, no, not in this case, but in this scenario here. So in this scenario, it's, yeah, okay, it says enable default proxy. If I just look at the top part of this page, like this area, you would think, okay, the process should run.
Mm-hmm.
But then below that, it says, okay, IPv4 is disabled, IPv6 Tor is enabled. Oh, but Tor uses other proxy. So that means this default proxy process should actually not run because it's not even being used.
No, I think in the case when the, like if it's only Tor marked, then you don't need to separate it because it's the only one. But maybe, so then this settings wouldn't be, because this is basically the default proxy is used for Tor. Then you don't need to separate. The separation only is needed, as I understand it, the separation is only needed when you turn IP4 or IP6, and you want to have a different proxy for that.
So you would say, so when IPv4, IPv6 is enabled, you would show additional settings.
Yeah, something like that. If I understand correctly.
So when Tor connections is used only, okay, so this is where it just kind of gets messy. I'm just gonna move to another part here. Okay, so let's mock this up. So we have 3 scenarios. Maybe might be less. I don't know yet. So in this case,
I think we shouldn't call it default. We should call it just proxy, and then if there will be a separate proxy for Tor, then we can call it a Tor proxy IP or Tor proxy port. So because the default the default here doesn't work in the IDEA. because yeah. Oh yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but see, that's really confusing. It says here, they use Tor connections, okay, and then Tor connections use this proxy. But then if I click this box here, for some reason, the Tor behavior changes, and then, like, these things show up without telling me.
No.
But it's kind of
no. When you turn this on, I would hide this and show. Something like that.
okay.
And only when you turn this on, then you can change. I mean, this is becoming a matryoshka of toggles. So
Yeah,
that's
a problem. And then
the logic
you would have,
can work.
they would look like this, and these would be, yeah. Or this, I think that's the wrong input field here. Okay, let's go through the whole thing. So a user starts on this screen. So you'd said this would not be called default. It would just be called proxy. Okay. Then all of this stuff would be hidden. And it's interesting, in this case, a user has no idea what's even possible on this page. So hiding options, you kind of need to be careful.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, I mean, I don't know if this is true. I guess it probably is. So
It'd be interesting
if I enable.
How do you think perhaps we can have like a disabled state for these items instead of hiding them?
Hold on, I want to finish that train of thought here. So I enable the proxy. Okay, I can customize IP, and I can enable the signs with connections. Okay, then I just want to use Tor stuff, which hold on. Need one more state in here. Okay, so in this case, I just want to use them for Tor. Tor uses the default proxy. Okay, then
you have this.
Then, okay. But okay, that only shows up if one of these is enabled. Then I'm like, okay, cool. I love still running stuff through proxy. I want to enable IPv4 also. Then I click that, and then this option here shows up.
Yeah.
Then I click that, and then we're at the screen here. Is that right?
It'd be interesting to know how often users use that, like separate this proxy, because if most of the users use the same proxy for all of connections, or even just for Tor, and they don't need separations, like I don't know, 2% user separation, then it's okay to hide it a bit, I think. But if it's widely used that you use separate for Tor and separate for connections, then perhaps it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I find this a tough one, where based on how these toggles which toggles are active, it moves back and forth. Tor switches from one, but yeah, this is really messy, and like you said, the discoverability problem is also.
I mean, I
itself.
think it'd be more friendly if we wouldn't hide it, but use disabled states, or I don't know, use checkboxes to differentiate from.
I'm playing around with checkboxes here, but I broke the design because I'm not. I'm trying to play around with hierarchy and trying to show hierarchy in those settings. So I was just playing around with making the font smaller, doing something, making the toggle boxes smaller. But I broke the original design because I don't work well in the grid. That like having it drop down maybe to reveal the different options is also something. I was playing around with the original idea from Christoph.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. My head is all over the place right now between all of these options.
We have a lot of different options at the moment. Yeah. Should we maybe just decide on three to present to the devs, or
I will try to, after the call, perhaps I will try to redo my version with a bit more structure and disabled states. I don't know, and so this can be one version. Maybe I also use checkboxes. I don't know. And then the Christoph version can be. Yeah, like the problem is we don't understand the logic.
Yeah. My head is not in the visual styling right now. It's really on just the information architecture. So sorry, I don't have any input on that right now.
no worries.
It's kind of crazy. We spent over an hour here.
An hour and a half on one topic.
Yeah.
Screen state.
No, we're trying to decipher this crazy thing.
I'll post an update to the to GitHub. I think I'm gonna go off and have some lunch now.
It is that time of the day. Huh?
Yeah, because I still need to watch those. I still need to. I'm one and a half videos in of watching the usability test videos. And I still have to do accessibility stuff, which I haven't done last week as well. So,
How many tests did you do?
I did 4, so a fair amount. So I'm watching through those videos now and taking down notes, and then I'm going to move my notes into FigJam, and then I'm going to sort through the notes, and then I'm going to make some recommendations based on the notes. It was also really nice seeing the Summer of Bitcoin guys last night. They really gave a lot of. It was really nice seeing them presenting their work as well. A lot of work went into what they did.
So after you modified the script, did you modify that a lot during the test?
No. I think what was very revealing was that even when I thought the prototype was ready, there were still things in the prototype that were not ready. So now it's at the stage where it's basically take the feedback from the usability tests, and I'm going to link the feedback to individual screen states, and then present that just as like a PDF document handoff, like, hey, this is a user feedback with regards to this screen state. This is user feedback with regards to that screen state, and that's it. It's done. It's 2 parts to the puzzle. So the first part is making the notes and then making recommendations, and then the second part is putting it in a way that's easy for everyone to understand, which I think should be as much as visual as possible. I will link the findings to individual screen states.
Don't forget to put some quotes.
That's exactly, yeah, I'm going to put the quotes exactly from what the users said. So yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, half of the work is going through the usability test, and the other half of the work is actually presenting it in a way that is easy to understand, which is quite a thing in UX research, I think. Okay, I'm gonna go off, guys. I know Christoph is in his bubble. I'm gonna leave Christoph in his bubble. I recognize what he's up to. I'm off. Enjoy the rest of the day. Yeah. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, Christoph.
I don't hear you, or maybe I muted.
Oh crap! I've been muted this whole time. Didn't say bye to Mo there, and I guess yeah. I'm just like I'm still trying to internalize all this stuff and come up with another 100 versions. Trying to think through this disabling this visibility stuff, seeing what options are available.
Yeah.
That I don't know. What do you think is the good next step?
Yeah, the disabled state, I think, can really clear that structure of settings.
Yeah. I was also looking at this thing here for IPv4 and IPv6, which is okay, yes, no.
Oh,
And for Tor connections, you have a choice. You can use regular proxy or separate proxy.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just wanted to see it. I don't think it's right yet either. It's that I know it when I see it thing. Do you have that with design a lot? Are you super rational, logical, or do you have this feels right?
No. I definitely need to sketch things, see things in context, but maybe in that case when we're not sure about the logic, like we're making a lot of assumptions, and maybe we should take a step back and just draft a logic and ask developers if this is the correct logic,
Mhm.
if this is how it works, and this is how it should work, and then at least we'll be sure how to structure the settings. Because now we did assumptions. I did a lot of assumptions, and I don't know if this works like that or.
I like these sessions though. How many different variations did we come up with? My workspace is ruined.
I'll move mine to mine. I'll actually.
No, it's fine. We can leave it all in one place. I'll just move it maybe out of the way a little bit. It's kind of crazy how Figma still performs well with all this stuff.
Yeah, we haven't touched the memory problem yet. Wait, sorry.